No one had ever done that to Charles Oliveira. Not Poirier, not Chandler, not even Islam. But in one round, Ilia Topuria made it look easy, and what this means for the UFC might just shift the entire lightweight landscape. But before we dive in, make sure to subscribe for more. Let's begin. In just one round, he erased a decade of resilience and turned the Octagon into a crime scene. This wasn't just a victory, it was an execution. The kind that forces you to sit up straighter, rewind the replay, and ask yourself, did that really just happen? And as the dust settled on UFC 317, one thing became brutally clear. This might be the end of an era and the rise of something far more dangerous. Charles Oliveira has always been the chaos artist of the UFC. He invites war, thrives in mayhem, and dances through danger like a man born in fire. We've watched him drop to the canvas, snatch limbs out of nowhere, and crawl back into title contention when most would have been carried out on a stretcher. But this time, there was no comeback, no scrambling submission, no desperate guard pull, just silence, just Ilia's fists, painting an ending no one wanted to believe. From the moment the cage closed, it was war. Charles opened with his signature aggression, those whip-crack teep kicks, that twitchy range. But Ilia didn't flinch. He stepped in with crisp jabs, testing the timing, measuring the moment. Within seconds, they were in the clinch, wrestling for dominance like two pit bulls on a tight leash. It was explosive, breathless, and full of risk. Charles tried to twist Ilia's rhythm, dragging him into grappling waters, nearly snagging a heel hook that made fans gasp. But Ilia slipped free, and that's when everything changed. Back on the feet, Ilia stayed composed, too composed. His eyes tracked every twitch of Charles's shoulders. And then he struck, a jab to the body, another to the head. Then came the thunder, a savage right hook that cracked Oliveira's chin like glass. The same shot that folded Volkanovski, the same one that made Holloway drop like a statue. And now, Charles, out cold, face up, still. The follow-up shots were almost unnecessary. Almost. But this is the UFC. You don't stop until the referee pulls you off. What Ilia Topuria just did cannot be overstated. This wasn't luck. This wasn't timing. This was prophecy. He told us he would beat Oliveira in one round. People laughed. Analysts dismissed it. But he walked in like a man who knew how the movie ended and made us all watch it anyway. His confidence is unnerving. Celebrating before the walkout, calm in the chaos, and then delivering exactly what he said, punch by punch. This isn't arrogance, it's vision, calculated, violent vision. And the scariest part? He's just getting started. Ilia's rise has been nothing short of meteoric. Just look at the names he's folded. Volkanovski, Holloway, and now Oliveira. 3 legends, 3 knockouts, all inside a year and a half. That kind of trajectory doesn't happen by accident. It's not hype. It's not matchmaking luck. It's domination. Pure, calculated, merciless domination. And it's not just the wins. It's how he wins. He doesn't brawl. He hunts. He sets traps with footwork and feints. He creates angles like a chess master while swinging with the certainty of a butcher. Every jab, every pivot, every hook. It's part of something bigger, something inevitable. And he's doing it in a weight class he doesn't even belong to on paper. Because let's not forget, this was his first major lightweight test. Charles Oliveira isn't just a big name. He's a big lightweight. The same man who missed weight so many times it cost him a title. He's walked through fire against Gaethje, Chandler, Poirier, and survived, thrived in the madness. And yet, against Ilia, he didn't survive a single round. That says something we shouldn't ignore. Still, not everything was flawless. During some of those early clinch and grappling exchanges, you could see flashes of the old Oliveira, strong in the clinch, dangerous off his back, always threatening something sneaky. And there were moments where his size advantage became obvious. He pushed Ilia into uncomfortable spots. He twisted him into awkward angles. It was subtle, but it was real. And if there's one crack in Ilia's armor right now, it's the unknown. How will he handle the true grappling specialist in this division? The Islam Makhachevs, the Arman Sarukians, the relentless wrestlers with weight and experience on their side. Because on the feet, it's a massacre. No question. But the UFC doesn't just run on talent. It runs on hype, on moments. And Ilia knows that. He doesn't just win fights, he sells them. He talks like a villain, walks like a star, and finishes like a highlight reel come to life. That's why people are already whispering about what's next. The most obvious and most insane choice: Paddy Pimblett. Yes, that Paddy. The hand sanitizer beef, the trash talk, the viral interviews, the staged chaos at press conferences. The idea of Paddy walking into the cage to face Ilia while the Spaniard holds 2 belts and a death stare might sound ridiculous. But in the fight business, ridiculous sells. And while Dana White seemed skeptical during the post-fight press conference, everyone knows what a monster payday that would be. Love or hate Paddy, people would watch. And Ilia? He'd welcome that circus with open arms and closed fists. Still, there are other names circling like sharks. Justin Gaethje, Arman Tsarukyan, maybe even a returning Islam if the timing works. The truth is, the lightweight division hasn't looked this volatile in years. And at the center of the storm is a guy who just knocked out 3 of the most durable fighters in UFC history. But what about Charles? That's the question no one wants to answer out loud. At 35, with more battles than birthdays in the UFC, this loss feels heavier than most. Not just because it was brutal, but because it was final. For a guy who's been hurt before, badly, he always had a plan B. A slick submission, a flash of resilience, a way back in. But not this time. There was no guard pull, no dramatic comeback, no jiu-jitsu magic, just darkness, cold, finality. And while he'll likely fight again, maybe even beat some top contenders, the title picture feels distant now, maybe even impossible. He's a legend, no question. The most finishes in UFC history. One of the most entertaining lightweights to ever live. But legacy doesn't protect your chin. And in this new era of hungry, sharp-edged killers, legacy is just another target. There's something poetic about what happened at UFC 317. The old guard clashed with the new, and for all of Oliveira's experience, heart, and history, he couldn't stop the future from breaking through. Ilia Topuria didn't just win, he took over. Not with flash, not with arrogance, but with clinical destruction. It was the kind of performance that forces the entire division to look over their shoulder. Because if you're standing, Ilia's coming. And if he touches you clean, you're not getting back up. This is the changing of the guard. Not in theory, not in slow transition, but in real time. Right in front of us. Ilia doesn't fight like the last generation of lightweights. He's not built on chaos like Gaethje. He's not a grind machine like Islam. He's not a pressure cooker like Dustin. He's something different, something colder. His fights are short stories with violent endings. He enters the cage with no wasted motion, no wasted emotion, and no wasted opportunities. Just efficiency, precision, detonation. And now every contender knows it. The belt is no longer just about grappling dominance or 5-round cardio wars. Now it's about who can survive the first 2 rounds with a man who plans every punch like a chess move and lands it like a sledgehammer. For Charles Oliveira, it's hard not to feel like we just watched the last chapter of something beautiful. The last desperate swing from a man who defied the odds for longer than anyone expected. A man who went from journeyman to champion, from overlooked to elite. But time has caught up. And even though he still has fights in him, that belt, that dream, it may have just slipped away for good. And that's the hardest part. Not the knockout, not the silence in the arena, but the feeling that you just witnessed a torch being passed, and this time, it's not coming back. Ilia Topuria isn't on the rise anymore. He's arrived, and the UFC has a new problem to solve. So what comes next? A super fight with Paddy, full of trash talk and tension, a war with Gaethje that could rewrite the fight of the year, or a cold, surgical dismantling of Tsarukyan that proves Ilia is no longer just a name, but a legacy in the making? Whatever it is, one thing is clear. Ilia Topuria didn't just knock out Charles Oliveira. He may have knocked him out of the title picture. For good. And if this is what Ilia does in his first year at lightweight, what's he going to do next? Stick around. Because the scariest part? He's just getting started.